February 4th, 2020. This is Doug Stout. I'm here with Lee Willard, who's a Vietnam veteran. Lee, where were you born?
I was born in Akron, Ohio, rubber capital of Ohio.
When did you move to Newark?
I believe we moved down to Newark 1953, latter part of 1953. It was after my sister was born in 52.
So how old were you then about?
Let me see, that would have made me 6. Yeah, I believe I was 6 years old. So that would have been 54. Yeah, 54. So it would have been when my little sister was a year old.
So did your dad get transferred down here or something?
I believe it was circumstances, financial circumstances. Because when we first moved down here, we moved in with my grandmother, who lived in off of Summit Road in a one-bedroom. Well, actually, it was a loft-style house. And when you woke up, you were lucky if you didn't have a cow looking in the bedroom window at you. But then we eventually moved on to 5th Street. We lived above the old home restaurant, which was next to Jack's Market there on 5th Street.
Okay, now for those of us that don't know, so where about on 5th Street are you? Because I'm not familiar with where Jack's Market is.
Nearly there on the corner of, I don't want to say right on the corner of 5th and Wilson.
Okay.
Because you had Fink's Sign Company directly on the corner of 5th and Wilson. And then you had a little like pawn shop. And then you had Canal Street. And then you had the home restaurant. And then Jack's Market. And then you had Market Street. And then you had Van's used auto lot.
Okay.
And then as you went on down, you had, I think it was Bonham's Candy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
So you went to Newark schools through 10th grade?
2 months into the 10th grade.
And you were so then you decided you were going to enlist, is that right?
Well, I had intentions of going into the service.
Okay.
I had a wire that snapped by a math teacher that told me one day when I came into class, and I had a lot of family circumstances that were going on that kind of pushed me in that direction as well. But on this particular day, I had a math teacher tell me that I was wasting the seat of a student that could be sitting there learning.
Wow.
And it just so happened I got up out of the seat and I said, I'm going to give you that opportunity. So I went directly down to the counselor and told the counselor that I was going to quit school. Well, of course, she done all of her efforts to keep me there, but I told her what my intention was to go in, get a GED, and which I did, and I furthered my education. I've done some college, but that was the straw that broke the camel's back when that math teacher told me I was wasting the seat. And my frame of mind during that time was, you're absolutely right.
Yeah. So what year was that?
That was 65. That was October. I'll never forget it because it was early October. Because was when I got out of school, I gave myself a 3-week vacation because I went in the day before my 17th birthday, which I was inducted on my 17th birthday. So I had all my paperwork and stuff done before I was 17. I had to weigh 121 pounds. I weighed 117. My mother bought me 4 pounds of bananas to eat on the way over 4 days. Got 4 pounds worth.
So your parents probably had to sign for you, didn't they?
Oh yeah, I still have the note that I left my mother on the refrigerator. It was imperative that she signed that paper because I needed a different environment to get into. Otherwise, I wouldn't be sitting where I am now. Not because of the Vietnam War, but I'd have ended up in prison somewhere.
So she didn't fight you on?
No. Well, she did in the beginning. Yeah, she didn't want to lose her son to the military now, but she knew there wasn't any fighting me either. If I'd had to find a surrogate mother to sign that piece of paper, I would have done that. But circumstances, in my own mind, I knew that I couldn't continue on with the lifestyle that was going on with my family.
So you just turned 17, and you're basically on your way to boot camp.
Yes.
So where'd you do boot at? Where'd you take your boot camp?
I took boot camp at Fort Gordon, Georgia.
Okay.
Went through indoctrination at Fort Hays in Columbus, Ohio. That was a trip. We were supposed to take a 16-week basic training course. And we ended up only taking 10. Well, when I went in in November, and we had Thanksgiving, which they sent us home for 3 days for Thanksgiving. And then there was Christmas. Well, they sent us home for 2 weeks for Christmas. So it broke up basic training to the point where we only had 8 weeks of basic training. And that's all the basic training we got.
So then did you have AIT?
Yes, that was at Port Leonard Wood.
Okay.
Now my uncle, before I went in, he was career National Guard. Now he's the one that directed me to go engineers. He said, you don't want to go into infantry, you don't want to go into shooting off cannons or anything. He was trying to steer me away from combat.
Right.
So he said, go engineers, you can't go wrong. Was he wrong? So anyways, I went into engineers. They give you a test when you go in the military. It's called a profile test. It's kind of like a college entrance exam. It profiles your strengths and your weaknesses. And they go by that to see what you can be qualified for in your military occupational specialty, your MOS. I could have gone into anything I wanted to when I was done with that profile test. My profile was 1 all the way across. So I done what my uncle said. I want to go into engineers. Well, at the time, I thought to myself, well, this is lucrative. When I get out, I can do heavy equipment. Well, when I got out, I was still 19, just getting ready to turn 20, and you had to be 21 because of insurance purposes. So there was that lag between 20 and 21 that I lost all of that. But yeah, I took AIT at Fort Leonard Wood, and that was during the winter. I was at crane operators course, and I had a shovel front that I dug into that frozen earth. And the back end of that crane come up. And I panicked. The first thing I done was let up off that clutch, and that body came down and hit that cold hit that cold dirt. And I'm telling you, every bone in my body jarred. But yeah, that's where I took my AIT. And it was, I done so well, in fact, that they wanted to keep me as an instructor.
So did you say no to that?
I said nothing. In fact, it never went any farther than that. I ended up going to Korea right after that, which then I knew why they called Fort Leonard Wood Little Korea when I got to Korea. Winters over there was just as cold. Batteries would blow up. Plastic handled screwdrivers would snap in your hand.
So where were you based in Korea?
I was, well, when I first got over there, I was at Kimpo Air Force Base. They had a little engineer outfit that was attached to it, but it was just small. They had one 10-ton truck-mounted crane. It was just a little thing, garwood. And I was only there for about 2.5 months, and they sent me to Seoul, Korea, and which they TDY'd me up to the northern part of Korea, up by the Imjim River, which was a unit called the 2nd Engineers Float Bridge Outfit, which we had a ferry site that went across the Imjim River, which supplied those that were stationed closer to the DMZ, supplied them with their supplies. We had some comedic times during that ferry site we had. South Koreans weren't supposed to be over on the north. I'm not going to carry that story.
Okay. Keep that one.
Yes.
So how long, so you're in Korea, did you think you were going to be sent to Vietnam?
No. I was only 17 when I was in Korea.
Right.
I don't want to go a step ahead of myself.
Okay.
But when I went to Korea, I was 17 years old. This is the first time, well, other than moving around in the States, going from Fort Bragg to Fort Gordon to Fort Leonard Wood, flying. My first time ever being on a plane. That journey to Korea was, I don't know how many hours we were in the air. Let's just reel out 8 hours. Fascinating trip. I mean, pods of whales as you flow over the ocean. I mean, I was sucking it all in educationally. And seeing Mount Fujiyama off in the distance. Well, I got to see her 4 times. To Korea, leaving Korea, to Vietnam, leaving Vietnam. But the flight to Vietnam, it never really stuck until they opened the doors to that plane when we landed in Vietnam.
Because of the heat.
That plane was all nice and comfortable like it is in this home. When they opened that door, it sucked every bit of air conditioning out of that plane. Like, I don't know if you ever seen the movie where there was a fire in a building, and that's why they tell you never take an elevator. Because there's air conditioning in an elevator. And when you open those doors, the first thing a fire wants to do is to go to the least resistance to that fire. And that is air conditioning. And that's what that heat done when it came into that plane. It just, I mean, papers flew and everything. And all that red dust just flew into that plane. And it was just like, you know, it was, you were hiding your eyes. You was trying to fight all of that coming into the plane.
Was that a military plane that you flew over?
Oh, it was huge.
Okay.
I mean, there must have been, I don't know, maybe it's because of my age and everything was so big to me, but there must have been 300 people on that plane. I mean, when you went to the bathroom, it seemed like you walked for hours to get there.
Was it, now I'm going to, was it still cold in Korea then when you flew to Vietnam into the heat?
Well, let me tell you. In October, it would get, if we were lucky, a few days, it would get in the 80s. Them South Vietnamese was begging for our field jackets to wear. They were cold. And we were relishing in it. 2 years, 7 months, and some odd days, they kept me overseas. The rest of the time I was in the States. I don't know why. But anyways, I spent 13 months in Korea.
Okay.
Between the ages of 17 and 18. I spent a little bit of time in Fort Bragg at a motor pool. Because I was so bored at Fort Bragg at that motor pool that I thought, I got to do something here. This is boring the hell out of me. So I signed up, get my GED. Well, as I'm getting my GED, I get these orders to go to Fort Belvoir, Virginia. Doug, I've only got 11 months left in the service. No, maybe a year. Yeah, maybe a year. So I finished up my GED, and I trot off to Fort Belvoir, Virginia, directly in the middle of Washington, D.C. I ate that up. Man, I was a tourist. I was no longer in the military. I was going to school in a college-style environment. I was eating up the educational part of that tour. Smithsonian, that's when you didn't have all of the security.
Right.
I mean, you could walk right up to the White House. But anyways, so I do the 16 weeks. I'm the only Spec 4 that passed that course.
Jeez.
I mean, the others passed.
Right.
But I was the only one that passed with honors. Here to find out what they were doing. Now, this is what we done at that 16-week course. They taught us how to build bridges and how to blow them up. They taught us how to booby-trap villages and then move over to the next village from the individuals that booby-trapped that village, and we had to neutralize all their booby traps. Meanwhile, someone's doing the same thing to the booby-trap village that we did. They taught us to lay landmines. They taught us how to reconnoiter villages and how to get logistics for those villages and whether or not they were VC sympathizers. Now, these guys dressed up just like VC. In my whole mind, I'm thinking to myself, I've only got 10 months now left in the service. You know, apparently they're just buffering me up for something. I don't know what it is. And in my whole time, I'm thinking, Vietnam, is way back there somewhere in my mind.
Right.
Come graduation day, I get a letter of certificate. And I look down there, my MOS was 62 F20. Is this MOS? Yes, Mr. Willard, or Specialist Fourth Class Willard. Your MOS has been changed. I said, what's this D13? That's explosive ordnance detonator. Well, what in the hell is that? Well, what do you think you were here for 16 weeks? Why do you think we taught you how to blow up bridges and how to build them, how to take care of villages, and how to undo booby traps, and how to set up booby traps? I said, well, I just thought it was just an extension of the engineer course that I've already taken. No. So I have 8 months left in the service, and they sent me to Vietnam.
So that's when? About?
March of 68.
Okay.
March, April, May, June, July, August, September, and October. Crawling through tunnels. Digging up old 1948 minefields. Neutralizing them, replacing them with new ones. Crawling through the tunnels, getting logistics. Meanwhile, saving my own rear end from those that were set in those tunnels. Inch by minuscule inch, you went through those tunnels.
And the reason they picked you is because you're smaller, correct?
I only weighed 129 pounds. Look at me now. This is what I weighed. This is all I weigh.
So you were considered what we would call a tunnel rat.
That's exactly what I was. Exactly.
So if somebody hears that term, you did it.
That's right.
So if I'm not mistaken, they would send you down with a pistol.
45. I carried a 60, but it wouldn't fit down there with me. Number one, there was no way I could take that with me anyway. A 45 and a flashlight.
Not really.
And a poncho, because you had so much human excrement in those tunnels, you had to take a poncho with you in order to slide over that. Now, mind you, it's 110, 13, 14 outside as it is, and you are in a rubberized poncho, and you are so wet and full of sweat that when you come back up out of that tunnel, you actually take that off, and it is just full of your sweat. You're drenched. Your adrenaline is pumping at 100 miles an hour. Because it ain't a walk in the park. You see those guys in the movies hitting the ground and hitting those tunnels like it's a piece of cake. You don't do that. You do that, I'm telling you, you do it you crawl by your fingernails into those tunnels.
So where were you stationed in Vietnam?
I was stationed in Tui Wa.
Okay.
But I was TDY in Chu Lai, Phu Bai, Saigon. I never made it very far north.
That was far enough.
Well, see, that's like in Tui Wa, where I was stationed, you had the Tui Wa Air Base as well. Now, connected to the Tui Wa Air Base was also Tui Wa's ammo dump.
Okay.
Now, part of our criteria as combat engineers was we sided with the Air Force to stand guard over that ammo dump. Most of those land mines were laid when those units went in. But some of them put their units in where minefields have already been placed. Some of those minefields have been laid there since the 40s. On one particular day, concertina wire was all around this ammo dump that was attached to the airbase that we were guarding. Guard towers all around each corner. There were also bunkers. I was in a bunker this one particular day, sitting on top. There was no way you could set in those bunkers. You'd fry to death. So I'm sitting up there on top, having me a cigarette. And I look down on the corner, there's a water buffalo. And he's mingled himself in such a manner that he got himself through that fence. Well, I'm sitting up there on top, and I got my 60 sitting across my lap. And I'm watching this water buffalo. And I'm waiting for any moment he's going to step on a mine. I just know he is. Right. Well, he walks down across my bunker, walks down to the other end, where there's also another corner where concertina wire is keeping him from making it around the other corner. Well, he decides to turn around, knowing he can't make it around the rest of the corner, heads back, and finally steps on a landmine. Blows his whole entire right leg off. I mean, it blows up into the air and finally comes back down. I called headquarters. So they got a water buffalo laying out here with just 3 legs. I says, you want me to finish putting him down? Yeah, you go ahead, Willard. We'll send out a 5-ton tractor and we'll pick him up and take him on into the village and take him down. I opened up that 60, Doug, and I went down that minefield to see if I could hit any other mines. I only hit one of them. Here that minefield's been sitting there so long, it has so much sand on it, there was no way that anybody could have stepped on a mine and killed themselves. So that minefield, I had to, along with 3 other guys, we had to replace that minefield. There were 1,500 mines around that ammo dump. Took us 3 days.
3 days just to get them out?
Yeah.
Were those laid by the French?
Yes. Yes. Very good. Yes.
Wow. So the water buffalo kind of helped you figure out the defenses weren't any good.
No, the fences.
Yeah, but the
mines
weren't any good.
No.
They got through the fences. They weren't.
No. And I still sit and know that those shallow mines that I've laid are still being stepped on by kids today. Innocent people. Those graphs, I mean, you have to graph out. You have to graph it out for other units that come through.
Right.
Those graphs are all gone. They're all gone. When we picked up and left, logistics was left behind. All logistics.
Well, same sort as when the French must have left, because they must have done the same thing. They just left everything. Because they left their minefields too.
Well, they have old tanks over there, rusted, and a lot of their munitions was left over there. And in fact, a lot of that was used against the Americans. Some of the old French cannons they've used, tanks.
Right. So you're there for 8 months.
8 months.
Normal tour duties.
12.
So did they let you out at 8 months?
Yes. Well, now, I wanted to be a helicopter pilot.
Jeez.
And that entailed into changing me into a warrant officer. Now they knew that I wanted a brand new 1968 Roadrunner, which I could have bought at that time for $1,800. Now 1968, $1,800 might as well have been $88,000. But they knew I wanted one. And they knew I wanted to be a helicopter pilot. Warrant officer in the service is a man that gives no orders nor takes any orders. He's like a civilian. They knew I wasn't too prone on taking orders, and they knew I wasn't too prone on giving orders. So that was ideal for me. But they wanted me to extend my service over there for 6 months. They wanted to give me a bonus of $8,000. And they said, you've only done 8 months. If you do another 6, that'll fulfill your 4 months and give you another 2 months towards the 6 years of service that you have to do anyway. Because we're all obligated 6 years of service. Okay. So if I done my 3, I still had 3 years of obligation towards it. You know, I considered it. But then I also thought to myself, that 1968 Roadrunner would have been sitting in a junkyard somewhere. And who knows if I would have made it through that last 6 months I stood in my tour duty.
It's a big gamble.
Now I weighed the 2 out. Yeah, 8 months left. I thought I was going to make it. I mean, through the whole service without going over there. I don't know what it would have been like spending a whole year over there. The 8 months over there was quite interesting. Coming home.
So when did you come home?
I came home in October of '68. I believe they let me out a week early. No, it couldn't have been a week early because I was home for my birthday. They let me out on the 25th. I think they let me out 10 days, somewhere around there. But they let me out early. That was a trip.
So you got on a plane there in Vietnam?
Yeah, I believe it was Thompson. I don't know. You know, it's been over 50 years ago.
Sure.
It might have been Cameron Bay.
Right.
I'm not certain exactly which one we left on, but believe me, I was glad to be sitting in that chair and handed a deck of cards. First thing I done was turn that light on and turn that damn air conditioner on. We came into Alaska. And then, again, another short layover there. And then from Alaska, we hit the colorful little town of San Francisco.
And you knew, right? Had you heard anything about what was going on back here? Okay.
We had.
Not a clue.
When we were on the plane, if you'd have heard the elation and the stories conditions were when we got back in country. You would have realized that we didn't have a clue. We didn't have the slightest clue. We weren't looking for no bands. We weren't looking, those that had family in California, their parents drove from wherever they lived. I mean, it might have been the hundreds of miles, but drove to San Francisco to see their children come home from Vietnam. Had to struggle their way through those crowds to get to their children.
And when you say crowds, you mean crowds of protesters, right?
They weren't protesters.
Okay.
These people were evil.
Sorry. Wrong term.
No, nothing to apologize for. These people were evil. Protesting is something you do to J.C. Penney's, or you do to Sears. These people were evil. They were evil. How can you call somebody evil? Without the knowledge. You tell them to go back when they're wrong. How can you say that to somebody when you've never been there yourself? Go back where you belong. What are you doing here? Stealing my job? I just got off the plane. I mean, we didn't, like I said, we didn't expect any parades. We did expect a little teeny bit of respect. Like I said, even when I came home here, some of the guys I hung with, I had a 56 Pontiac Chieftain transmission came. Me and Red Christmas were pretty good buddies, only because I kept him in business an awful lot. Do you know I changed that transmission in my dress screens?
Just
Only because I thought that's all it was worth for. And to this day, I'm gathering it all back up piece by piece because I wasn't buried in it.
when did that change for you?
When did what change?
When did you start seeing the difference that you go from changing a transmission in your dress screens because that's all it means to you to now I want dress screens?
I could give you a year, and that was 2015. That's when I died 3 times. I was in a coma for 3 weeks, and I was given a change of thought that I have a right to express my feelings and not to suppress them anymore. I have a right to speak up and tell my story. paragraph in our history books about Vietnam. I don't know what I expect out of the end of all this. I know you have a question for me at the end of all this. I've got a good answer for you.
If you want, I can just do it right now. I mean, what do you want? I mean, 50, 100 years from now, somebody, what do you want them to remember about Vietnam? An American Vietnam veteran.
We were, as a people that fought for this country, the most disrespected, the most forgotten, and the most unwanted hero that this nation has ever looked at. Even though we spearheaded a better VA system.
Do you feel that things have changed?
Oh, immensely. Yes. My first claim was 3.5 years. Now the claims are going through in less than 6 months, if not 3. I've seen Trump, and I know probably a lot of you are cringing, but I've seen Trump turn the VA system around 180. I've seen him take people that have drugged the system down and kicked their butts out on the street and replaced it with 10 people. Just that one individual. I've seen the VA system change completely. Their attitude has changed. The way that they process their claims has changed. And the amount of help that they offer has changed.
What about society? When did you feel like society changed to where, because you wouldn't have worn a Vietnam veteran hat when you came home for
No.
years.
No.
Nobody saw a Vietnam veteran hat because you didn't know what people's response would be and everything. When do you think? When did that change for you? Was it after the coma? Did it change for you, or were you wearing it before that?
No.
Okay.
After.
So it was not.
Well, I was told the white ones were called targets. Yes.
When were you told that? I mean, like you mean like in the 60s, 70s, and 80s?
70s and 80s.
Yeah.
You don't want to wear a white one, dude. They're targets.
So for you, it wasn't, because for a lot, it was after 9/11. It seemed like things changed. Some people say things changed in society towards the veteran. So, but for you, it wasn't then. It was really after 4 years later.
Going on 5 this June.
So when you started wearing the hat, when you started having something that identified you as a Vietnam veteran in the public.
Yeah, I almost died. I thought I'm losing my chance to get this out.
So after that, and then you start wearing your hat and stuff, what was the public's response to you? What's the public's response to you now?
Well, when I first put this on, I didn't put it on as a Kmart blue light.
Right.
And I didn't put it on as a look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me. I put it on in remembrance of the 58 plus thousand that are on that scar in Washington, D.C. I put it on there as a remembrance. Please don't forget about us. I mean, we went through some hell and we came home. I mean, can you just show just a little respect?
Does that happen now?
When I was down in Florida for the 10 years I was down there, I may have gotten 5 handshakes. Since I've been up here in Ohio, I almost had to refuse them. Okay?
And you've been back in Ohio for how long?
I've been back here since June, 8 months. I have never met a more friendly people than I have here in Ohio.
It's awesome.
I'm back home again. This is where I belong. I feel loved here.
It was awesome. So, I'll cut this out if it's not good. But since I know you, or I feel like I don't hate me. Would you trade your Vietnam service for any now?
It's a toughie. Would I trade my Vietnam service for?
For just to say, if you could go back and go back to Korea, and if you had the choice in your life to go back to Korea and do your 10 months or 9 months, and not go to Vietnam, knowing what you do now,
Well, Doug is so much a part of me that I feel that I was destined to go there. It's a big part of my life. My wife says I carry it way, way too much as a burden, which I do. It's an intricate part of my life. I try to utilize it as a tool for others to understand, but sometimes it gets in the way of my own emotions. But to say, would I trade, or would I go back and erase, or would I do something different? No. No, I wouldn't. In fact, I wish I would have spent a whole 12 months over there. Because I feel slighted. In a way. Yeah, I feel slighted. There were others that done the whole tour. I chopped off 2/3 of it, and that was all I ate.
You did what they told you to do.
Well, they waited until I almost had my foot out the door, and they grabbed me by the collar and said, "Get back here, boy. You've got a viable education here. We're going to use it in Vietnam. Come here."
And I just want everybody to remember, you went into the service when you were you signed up 16, in at 17. You got out at 19.
Yes.
So
Turned 20 a week and a half later.
After you got out of the service. So you spent your years of 17, 18, and 19 in the service.
I wanted to get it over early. I didn't want to have to get a draft notice. Doesn't that sound stupid?
No, because I've heard that from others.
Well, and then I had a family life too. I couldn't.
Is there anything else that you want to make sure we get down on this? sure after I leave, it doesn't get full.
There's, there's an afterthought that I have. And that is, I will never understand war. I don't understand how one can actually kill them over religion, over ethnics. I just don't understand all the effort that goes in to making a war. That same effort, if not less, can be used to make peace. So many of the young have to pay for those of us that sit. While others die. Can't we understand that? Gentlemen, citizens, give peace a chance.
If you had a chance to talk to the young Afghanistan vet, maybe you have, and they were struggling with the things that you struggle with, what would you tell them?
I would tell them not to beat yourself up so hard. I mean, it's a horrific thing to be plucked out of normalcy and thrown into such hell. But the number one thing you've got to do and learn to yourself is not to be so hard on yourself. What you did, you had to do. You were told to do it. You had no choice. Just don't be so hard on yourself. That's the only thing I can tell you. Just don't be so hard on yourself. Roll. I don't know how many of us were on that plane, but we were all elated that Vietnam was soon to be in our rearview mirror. The elation and the stories that were being told on that plane, the things that we were going to do, things that we were going to see, people that we were going to meet, the bars we were going to go to. The stories were endless on that plane. We were all anxious to get home. We were all so happy to have survived. The stories were endless. We were all so happy that we were coming home. There may be times during this video that you may find it. I'll be a little emotional. But then again, this video, I hope it helps those that want to know. And I also hope that it helps those that have never told their story. Anyways, we're all on the plane, and we're coming across the big pond, and we're headed home, playing cards. It's a hell of a journey, coming across the pond, sleeping, still playing cards, talking about what we're going to do when we come home. Let me take these off. Anyways, the journey is just horrible. I mean, we're all waiting to get home. Anyways, the plane lands into Anchorage. And we're allowed to have a layover. I don't know, couldn't have been but maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours.
And we have a short layover, and we get back on the plane and we head towards Seattle, Tacoma. We all called it SeaTac. And that's where we do all of our mustering out, getting our paperwork together, briefing out. And from Seattle, Tacoma, we catch a flight and we head down towards San Francisco. And that's where we get our plane tickets to head home. Back then, you didn't pay for your plane tickets. Well, anyways, the flight from Seattle, Tacoma to San Francisco, again, we're talking about what we're going to do when we get home, who we're going to see, how happy we were that we were able to make it out of that hellhole across the pond. First thing we're going to do when we get off the ramp is we're going to kiss Mother Earth, good old USA. We come down off that ramp, across the way, against the chain link fence, are hordes of people screaming, yelling, holding signs. Go back where you belong to. We don't want you here. Baby killers. Throwing fruits and vegetables at us, mainly rotten. Eggs. Being cussed at. We don't want you here. I mean, we're all amazed. When I leaned down and kissed the ground, as I was kissing it, I looked up at the same time and could not believe what I was looking at. I'm 19 years old. I just came back from one of the most horrific places a 19-year-old should have never witnessed. And then I come down off of that ramp, kiss the ground, and look up, and I'm almost seeing the same damn thing that I just left. I don't know what I did. What did I do wrong? Did I do something wrong? Anyways, we're all shuttled onto a bus, and we're taken over to this great big giant building. While on the bus, all the way down the street, people are lined on the sidewalks. Again, everybody's holding posters and signs. Baby killer. Go back where you belong. What are you doing coming back to steal my job? Fruit being thrown at the buses, rotten tomatoes, eggs, just anything that they could find to throw at the bus. I mean, all of us are sitting on the bus wondering what in the hell is going on. We're over in Vietnam, we're getting stars and stripes. None of this is being told to us. And somehow, none of the letters from those that left Vietnam, none of that information is getting back to us. So, when we get home and this is going on, we're thinking to ourselves, at least in Vietnam, we had weapons to defend ourselves. We're back home and this is going on, and we don't have anything to defend ourselves. I mean, it was atrocious. Now, we're in the big building and we're getting paperwork and orders and our tickets to go home. Meanwhile, at the airport, you have protesters. Back then, protesting was the norm, apparently. I mean, I didn't know it. I was over in the jungles. I was a I was going through shit of my own. I had no idea this was going on over here. So it got to the point where I was just happy to get on the bus, get on the plane. But it didn't happen that way. I was called everything but a white man. And I didn't understand why. I was 17 when I went in the Army. I quit school in the 9th grade, went about 2 months in the 10th. I had enough of the school system, decided I wanted to go in the Army. Thought that was, at the time, 17-year-old kid. I thought at the time that's what I wanted to do. I was proud to have served. A whole family served in the military. Done what I thought was right in Vietnam, followed orders. I was an EOD, an explosive ordnance detonator. Made minefields. I live with the fact that there's still children, people stepping on the mines that I laid. Crawled through those tunnels, make sure that none of the soldiers stepped on any mines, booby traps. I went through an awful lot of hell to come home and witness what I did. And then I come home, Newark, Ohio. I couldn't even wear my dress greens. My own hometown, Newark, Ohio. I couldn't go to the Club 31, Horseshoe Bar, Park Bar. I couldn't wear my dress greens. I had to take them off. The very same greens that I wore, proudly, because I served in Vietnam. I couldn't believe it. Even the people that I knew. I was getting the same remarks. So how many babies did you have to kill to get that dress greens on? The very same people. But I want to tell you a story. And this happened about 4 weeks ago. I was in a grocery store. Elderly lady was in front of me. She was having trouble with the card. And the only reason she was having trouble with the card was she was like $36, I believe it was, short on her card. So I told the lady at the counter, I said, go ahead and take what card she has, what on her card, and I'll make up the difference. The elderly lady was in front of me, told me, she said I didn't have to do that. I told her I felt compelled. So I went on ahead and made up the difference of what she had on her card and what was remaining on the bill for her groceries. I went on ahead and I paid for mine, which was only a few items. I think it came to $23, and I was kind of behind her. Anyways, her vehicle was 2 vehicles down from me. Well, she was kind of slow and I was behind her. Well, she opened up her trunk and I asked her if I could help her put her groceries in her vehicle for her. And she said no. Well, I had my cap on, which I normally do wear all the time. At least 98% of the time. Hell, I'll even fall asleep with it on. She come up to me and she asked me if she could hug me. You know, I told her, I said, I never turn down a hug. And this lady come up to me, hugged me. She said, I'm sorry. And I said, ma'am, what are you saying you're sorry to me for? And she said, I was one of those that held the sign when you fellas came home. And I looked at her and I backed off and I looked at her. And I said, ma'am, I said, those were different times. She said, but I'm compelled to tell you that I'm sorry. And that all Vietnam veterans, I apologize for the way that I treated you and the things that I said when you came home. And I said it without understanding what things that you went through and the orders that you had to follow. And I want to thank you for taking care of what I owed at the grocery store. And I thank her for her apology. That is the only time that anyone has ever apologized for the way that I was treated when I came home. So if you need any understanding on what it was like coming home from Vietnam, it was almost as horrific as it was. And to this day, all of us will go to our grave unforgiven, not forgetting, because we didn't deserve it. And to this day, no one, except for one, has ever apologized. We didn't deserve it. I don't know if this has helped you understand it. Probably hasn't. It probably